Natlan, as you know by now, has become my obsession, so I don't think it comes as a surprise that I'm making yet another video about this nation. Before starting the video, as always, this is a theory video. I will use information available in the game, but my theories and conclusions are not to be considered the official lore of the game unless I got something right and it's confirmed in a later update of the game itself. So today we're mainly gonna talk about the promotional video, but I'll also use a short at the end of the 4.8 livestream and the summer event in order to try and figure out what's happening in Natlan. Let's start with a short recap of what we saw in the latest video. Mualani and Kochina are recording a promotional video for the upcoming tournament, which seems to start with a ball being thrown. In the background we see a gorgeous steel structure that almost looks like a ship, or to be honest, one of the gardens from Final Fantasy VIII, and it feels like it's gonna be Natlan City. The first person to catch the ball was Kinich, and as usual he's flying. With him we see his Saurian companion, the pixel being straight out of a game from the 90s, Kuhul Ahau, the self-proclaimed almighty dragon lord. The title plus the really shows what kind of personality he has. Then, when Kinich passes the ball, it crashes into Citlali's house, breaking a few vases along the way. She says,
"Why do I have to?"
which is something we're gonna talk about later, and angrily throws the ball away. Next, the ball ends up in Shilonen's hand, the jaguar lady that was sleeping on a tree, and we'll talk about what she says later as well. She throws the ball again, it bounces on Ian-san's head, and then Chaska catches it. After that, we see the Ring of War being ignited for the tournament, and we finally see the Pyro Archon, Mavuika. She announces the beginning of the tournament to the audience and explains that the winner will take all. After that, we see the colors being burned away, everything looks almost sepia, and we see all the characters we've seen so far in reverse, from Chaska to Mualani and Kochina. Suddenly, a phoenix-looking bird flies toward Capitano and Ororon, and the Archon appears, asking Capitano if he's brave enough to compete. Then we see a dark and ominous room, a huge door opening, and Mavuika solemnly walking toward a red and green ball of fire with the symbol of the 6 Saurians going around it. She says that even the tiniest of sparks will not go unnoticed during the tournament, and then she looks behind her to ask someone or something, with a completely different tone, if they've caught everything, and the view gets suspiciously blurry. She turns around and there are 6 balls of flames, each with one Saurian symbol. She tells them that what they see should be their fate, but they should close their eyes and feel, because they'll forge their true fate with blood. Now that the summary is over, let's quickly go over the new characters and their names, meaning it's history and mythology time. Mualani was a Hawaiian high chiefess and princess of Ko'alau, the dormant fragmented remnant of the Windward Shield volcano that looks like the mountains we see in Natlan. She was a descendant of the highest ranking noble ever existed in Hawaii, who was famous for his knowledge in black magic to the point that he was defined as a wizard. Mualani was also known for being the grandmother of Kawalewaleuku, I have no idea how to say that. Anyway, a chief who was considered a deity in Ko'alau. Mualani from Natlan instead is, well, if Alola had a gym, she would be a water-type gym leader for sure. Her design is cute, but probably too packed with plushies everywhere. I mean, it took me a long time to see her vision, considering how much is going on with her clothes. Anyway, in case it wasn't clear enough by her design and even her fish pupils, she's a Hydro character and her Saurian is literally a Sharpedo. According to the drip marketing I had no idea was already out, her constellation is Phoca Neomonachus, so a Hawaiian seal, and her tribe is known as the People of the Springs. Kachina is a kind of spirit according to the Pueblo people, the Native Americans' descendants of the ancestral Pueblans, also called Anasazi, the ancient enemies by the Navajo, but it's a derogatory term. The ancestral Pueblans used to live in pit houses, or grand pueblos if they formed a clan, or even in cliff-sided dwellings, like what we would expect from the Nanaskayan people in Natlan, the miners of the east. A Kachina is basically a spirit or personification of things that exist in the real world. It could represent anything, because everything, every object or being in the natural world or cosmos has life. Kachina from Natlan is extremely cute. She's a Geo character that goes around with a unique, typically Saurian, that looks like a fairy drill that she can mount to go around and even climb walls. Considering her ears, she reminds me of either a quokka or a capybara, even though I've seen similar ears somewhere else. She might even be a sand cat actually, especially since she has those whiskers on her face. Another option may be a pika, even though it's a North American animal. It seems that I was right, she is a pika, because her constellation is Ochotona Princeps, so either the first pika or the pika prince. Kinich Ahau was the name of the Maya sun god in the Yucatec Maya language. He was the patron of the 4 years of the 52-year cycle, and the people usually performed rituals and wore dances in his honor when those years came around. Basically, the Maya had what was called a calendar round, so every 52 years the dates would simply repeat. Kinich Ahau is one of the manifestations of Istamna, the upper god and creator deity that resides in the sky. More specifically, Kinich Ahau represents the sun at sunset when he fled from the sky to join the lords of the night in the underworld. Kinich Ahau is also married with Itzel, the goddess of the moon. He represents the number 4 and is often represented as a flower with 4 petals, but also as a hummingbird, a very important little bird for the Mesoamerican cultures that looks like it's levitating, just like the character in Genshin Impact. Kinich from Natlan is a Dendro character that is indeed literally always levitating and flying in the sky, and he's a claymore user. His constellation, Chimera Alebrius, means the Alebrije Chimera, and an Alebrije is basically a totem animal. He is a hero and a Saurian hunter that disposes of Saurians that don't comply with the harmony of Natlan, sending them back to the Night Kingdom. As we said before, he is accompanied by Kuhula Ahau, the not-so-well-behaved and egotistical Dendrosaurian that looks like a pixel character from an old game. Kuhula Ahau basically means Divine Lord, and it was a leader of a polity or someone who had overlordship of another person, dynasty, or state. Citlalique, meaning star garment, so Citlali simply means star in the Nahuatl language, was one of the creator goddess in the Aztec mythology who created the stars, the Milky Way, the earth, death, and darkness together with her husband, Citlalatonac. Citlalique and Citlalatonac are often associated with the first pairs of humans, Tata and Nena, the survivors of the flood caused by Tlaloc, the god of rain, that destroyed the Fourth World. Citlalique, as a goddess of death and darkness, also presides over the concept of death and rebirth, which should become very important in Natlan. Citlali from Natlan looks like a tapestry maker, considering the colored fabrics hanging on the walls, the piece of fabric in her hands, and the vases full of colored powder. She's a cryo character despite her color palette being pink and purple. She looks like someone who doesn't want to interact with anyone, reason why she gets so mad when she was disturbed in the first place. Honestly, her design looks really good. Xilonen, which means doll made of corn, is one of the names of the goddess Chicomecoatl, the Seventh Serpent. She was the Aztec goddess of agriculture, nourishment, food, drink, and human livelihood, and was married to Tezcatlipoca, the god of the night represented by a jaguar, who literally caused the destruction of the world 3 times. Chicomecoatl was the Seventh Serpent because they represented the duality of the Aztec gods. She symbolizes the gathering of maize and agricultural prosperity, so what sustained the people, but she was also to blame when there were poor harvests, as if to say that she can give life, but she can also take it. Xilonen or Xilonen from Natlan is a Geo character. She's a jaguar person, her design looks really good, not gonna lie, and if you notice the lightning ring she has, we're gonna talk about it later in the video. She seems like another sleepy character from what we've seen, and I do hope she won't have the same personality Jade from Star Rail has, despite the way she speaks. Chaska comes from Salvadorian folklore and she's called La Virgen del Agua, the Virgin of the Water. Her story is pretty much Romeo and Juliet South American style. In the Ibarra de Santiago, her father Pachacutec arranged a marriage between Chaska and a prince of a Maya tribe from Guatemala. Chaska though was in love with a young fisherman, Acayatl, and because of that, her father hired a hitman to dispose of him. She was present when it happened and she decided to follow his lover in death. After Pachacutec died, every full moon night, the two lovers appear on a canoe, so the fishermen never go out at sea out of respect, and in return they bliss them with bountiful fish. Chaska from Natlan seems to be a cryo character because her vision is too light to be hydro and too light blue to be animal. She looks like a Spanish conquistador, and although her design is really nice, she does look a little bit too much like Clorend. Olorun is a Yoruba ruler of the heavens. They created the universe and all living things. They have no gender because they're defined as a spiritual entity, although in other versions it's a male deity. The people don't really worship Olorun directly, there are no temples nor shrines, because they don't partake in human rituals, though the people still send prayers to them regardless. Olorun is, similar to Kachina, considered to be everywhere and in everything. They also don't intervene in the human realm because of their immense powers, and they created death for humanity on their request, because it is said that people used to grow old very slowly and painfully, so they asked them to release them from their painful lives. Ororon from Natlan, well, we barely even saw him in the video. I honestly didn't even see him the first time at all. Luckily, we do have a better quality image of him, but considering the color palettes in Natlan are completely useless, I can't really tell what his element is. He has heterochromia iridum, meaning one eye is green and the other one is either purple or pink. Considering his ear, I'm not too sure what kind of animal person he is, but I think it could be a caracal. Although I'm not gonna lie, the overall design of his clothes really gives me peacock vibes for some reason. I love the tattoo on his arm, but what's particularly interesting is the quantum symbol he has on his t-shirt and hand. Then, considering that he is shown together with Capitano, he could be either the infamous 10th Harbinger we're missing, although Mavuika? What's up with the pose? Or he is like Lini, so Capitano's apprentice or left hand. Briefly about Capitano, since we still know nothing about him apart from the fact that he's probably the coolest character in this video, he does have a face. I thought his helmet was empty like the Headless Horseman from Sleepy Hollow, but he does indeed have a face, but it's completely black, as if it were a shadow. Wait, that's me though. Capitano, stop copying me. Jokes aside, too bad that we didn't get to see his glowing dark blue eyes. Lastly, Mavuika is the Maori deity of fire, so my belief that she was going to be Huitzilopochtli just went out of the window. Mavuika's husband was Awahituroa, the personification of comets and origin of life. Mavuika was the younger sister of Inanuitepo, the goddess of death, and her grandson was Maui, the cultural hero and trickster in Polynesian mythology, who tricked her into giving him the secret of making fire. Interestingly, Maui had superhuman strength and was able to shapeshift into animals. Anyway, Mavuika had 5 children, named for the 5 fingers on the human hand and collectively known as Nga Manawa. As for Mavuika from Natlan, take Presento Mike from Boku no Hero Academia and a fire-type gym leader or something like Mela from Scarlet and Violet, throw Oho and a biker in the mix and you get the Pyro Archon. I won't lie, apart from her hair and eyes, I don't particularly love her design, although it slightly reminds me of Himeko's Scarlet Fusion battlesuit. She doesn't feel like an Archon, nor does she look like the culture she's supposed to represent, like the other Archons do. Anyway, her fire colors look extremely similar to Firefly's flames, and the way she flew toward Capitano as a phoenix and appeared amidst the flames really feels like Firefly's technique. Her design is heavily centered around the sun, which is represented by that 8-pointed star or Ishtar star that we all know from the game. It's on her thighs, earrings, and in her eyes. Even the Natlan Vision are basically the same symbol. One thing though is this ring that they showed us, and it feels like it's important, but I can't remember where I've seen that symbol before. Apart from looking like Wonder Woman's logo, it feels like something from Honkai Impact, but I can't find it. It gives me Elysian Realm vibes, but I had no luck there either. Now that we're done with the characters, it's time to talk about Natlan in general. I've said multiple times in my Natlan videos that the Endless Ring of War was going to be a tournament that has been going on for a very long time, most likely since the Cataclysm, that Natlan was going to be a tourist destination because of it, and that the people couldn't leave Natlan because they were probably forced to take part in the tournament, something like the Hunger Games basically. Mualani confirmed it to be a tournament. Citlali said, which feels like the people just have to participate and don't have any other choice. Shilonen said,
Is it that time of year again?
so the competition has been repeated every year, and lastly Chaska wondered,
I wonder if she's watching.
so maybe the Archon doesn't oversee the tournament every year, unlike Furina with the trials. The Endless Ring of War looks like an Olympic arena, with a main huge and important torch that probably should never go out. Kinich is the flame bearer during Turnfire Night, so the Olympics reference is confirmed. I will go as far as to say that maybe the fighting spirit of the people of Natlan, both the warriors and the audience, is what keeps this torch alive, or at least that could be what the people were led to think. What really surprised me is the lack of interest that the characters we saw have toward the tournament. Shilonen sounded bothered by it, as if she were saying, "Oh no, not again," while Citlali would rather avoid it entirely. Maybe this tournament has been going on for so long and winning never really meant much that the people of Natlan are just tired of it, which could also be the reason why Natlan is losing color, but we're talking about this later. When it comes to the geography, the arena is more or less in front of the big ship inside the mountain that we saw in the first short video. Interestingly, behind that same mountain there seems to be a temple, or actually a Mesoamerican kind of pyramid, you know, the ones that are cut at the top. This temple seems like it used to be connected to the surrounding mountains by 3 stone bridges, but it looks like it moved because of an earthquake probably, so the bridges are now displaced. I suppose we will be able to jump across with the Saurian power, since they seem to allow us to fly around, almost like the 4-leaf sigils in Sumeru. Wait, now that I think about it, they are both exploration devices based on Dendro. Anyway, that temple may end up being the dark room Mavuika enters at the end of the video. As for the light blue ship that's potentially going to be the main city of Natlan, I don't really know what it is, but considering the crystalline water we see in front of it, I suppose it's near the Hydro region, so west of the nation. I mean, that seems to be the area with the most concentration of water. Now, do you remember the quantum symbol on Ororon's t-shirt? Well, I did notice something interesting. In Natlan there's this weird tree formation that looks like the quantum symbol, and guess what? That same tree formation is in the background when Mavuika is flying toward Capitano and Ororon. This intrigues me to no end. Lastly, before the section about the Pyro Archon, I noticed something interesting on the new characters we've been introduced to. Kachina and Shilonen both have this weird lightning symbol on their clothes, so they may be part of the same tribe. The same goes for Citlali and Ororon, they both have this specific symbol. The other characters though all have different ones, so they probably belong to different tribes. These are the various symbols. If I'm right about this, then we should probably start thinking what it means to be part of a tribe and have a Saurian companion, especially for vision holders. The tribes most likely originated from the Saurians, and the members of each tribe should be accompanied by that corresponding Saurian. To put it simply, the Nanaskayan people, the miners from the Geo-Saurian tribe, should all have a Tepetli Saurian as a companion. But this also poses an obvious problem here. To fully explain what I mean, let's deeply analyze the symbols I found. Starting with Kachina and Shilonen, this symbol looks like a lightning, but it actually isn't at all. This is part of the drill on the symbol of the Geo-Saurian. The same goes more or less for the other symbols. Kenich's symbol is the same as the tail in the Saurian symbol, but flipped vertically. Yansan's symbol is very similar to the top left Saurian symbol, so the Pyrosaurian, probably also known as Kohola Saurian. Chaska's symbol is a stylized version of the bottom Saurian symbol, the Electrosaurian. Citlali and Ororon's symbol is also a stylized version of the top right Saurian, the Anemosaurian, and by the way, it's basically the quantum symbol from Honkai Impact. And Mualani's symbol on her head represents the bottom left Saurian symbol, the Hydrosaurian. Now, considering Kachina, Kinich and Mualani, we could say that the people belonging to a specific tribe will be accompanied by the corresponding Saurian and their visions will also align with its element. But what about Chaska and Citlali, who belong respectively to the Electro and Pyro Saurian tribes but have a cryo vision? In my last Natlan video, we left off with the idea that there are no Cryosaurians because we know of the existence of the Animal, Pyro, Dendro, Electro, Geo and Hydrosaurian, leaving just Cryo out, especially because there are only 6 tribes. Ranjit told us that the colors of the Saurians indicate their element. So his hat is inspired by an Animal Saurian, he talked about the Pyro and Electro ones, and we did see the huge red Saurian at the end of the first short video, and we saw the Dendro, Hydro and Geosaurians in the same video. So what happens when a person gets a cryo vision? I think we're going to have some kind of new mechanics that will allow us to use the Saurians while we fight. Something like the bamboos in Zenless Zone 0 that can help us fight on their own, and sometimes we can have them join the chain attack. When the character and Saurian have different elements, then the Saurian will simply help us cause reactions, so bonus damage. As a consequence, Citlali will have an Animosaurian, so Swirl Reaction, and Chaska will have an Electrosaurian, so Superconduct. I think that this would be an interesting addition to the game, by the way. To conclude on the Saurians, we also need to face the fact that these Saurians are literally Pokemon. They originally evolved from the Fire Dragon Sovereign into 6 different species, like, you know, the Pokemon all came from Mew. Then, if their human companion has a vision, they seem to evolve once more, reason why Kachina's Saurian is not a generic Tetlicorian, Mualani's Saurian looks like a Sharpedo, and Kinich's Saurian is a 2D sprite. In Pokemon terms, maybe a vision is similar to an evolution stone. Now, when it comes to Mavuika and potentially the Archon Quest, things get slightly difficult. The way Mavuika went from Presento Mike introducing the tournament to the way she said,
The champion will take all.
Makes me think something's wrong with this year's tournament. It feels like she's either giving up on her position of Archon or that she has to do it in order to achieve something greater, and in general that she's sad about it, which is the feeling I also got from how they showed us just her mouth and not her eyes as she said it, as if they were hiding her feelings. Considering the Capitano decided to join the tournament, it means that the winner should also receive the Pyronosis because the Harbingers exist primarily to obtain them and give them to the Tsaritsa. What's also interesting is how she didn't sound bothered or threatened by Capitano's presence. She's okay with him joining the tournament. If anything, she doubts he's strong enough, either mentally or physically, to compete. On the other hand, the way Capitano replied to her question makes me think that he is the one who's bothered by the idea of joining the tournament. We know he's fought many great important battles, so fighting in a competition may not be exactly something he enjoys, but he still has to do it to accomplish his mission as a Harbinger. Another peculiar aspect of the video is how the colors were burned away by her red and green fire, and we basically went back to the beginning of the video, almost as if time was reversed following the tournament bowl. It feels as if she's going to burn away that section of history, so I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to travel back in time, nullifying everything that happened in the Archon Quest, which could also explain why Mavuika is okay with the result of the tournament. Maybe by the end of version 5.2, everything that happened will be erased and nothing will have happened. Then we have this dark, ominous room. I instantly thought of the Underworld, or the Night Kingdom as it's called in Natlan, a very recurrent theme across Mesoamerican cultures. There, Mavuika reaches this ball of red and green fire, just like hers, surrounded by the Saurian symbols, and that makes me think that this ball of fire may be either the Primal Fire, or what's left of the Fire Dragon Sovereign. Mavuika said,
Time to burn again! Even the tiniest of sparks will not go unnoticed.
In a very Presento Mike kind of way, so she's probably still hyping up the audience and the warriors. These sparks she talks about may be what's fueling this ball of fire, like the will to fight of the people of Natlan, the power of their belief. Now, if that ball of fire is the fire dragon, then could it be that the resurrection from the Archon Quest title doesn't refer to the Archon, but to the dragon itself? Albeit it would be the first time the title of the Archon Quest wouldn't be related to the Archon, so I slightly doubt that's going to be the case. The music in this scene, as my fellow countryman and YouTuber Marco Meatball would say, literally speaks to us. We hear Gregorian chant, which always gives a solemn divine liturgy feeling that usually indicates the presence of some kind of divinity or higher being, but when she turns around, the music goes back to an epic style, but still kinda sad or nostalgic. This sounds like the ball of fire is a higher power that requires reverence, while the 6 smaller flames are going to be important to the mission she's trying to accomplish. Now, when she turns around, things change drastically. Her tone is completely different, as if she didn't need to sound hyped anymore, and it sounded like she was talking to a cameraman asking if they recorded everything. And I say recorded because in the official Italian subtitles she says, "Did you record everything?" These 6 balls of fire, the ones catching everything she said, are strangely defined as a singular being in the Italian subtitles. In English, you can be either singular or plural, but in Italian she says "hai ripreso tutto", it's singular, so those balls of fire are probably counted as one single being. Anyway, it almost feels like the Saurians are way more related to her than we previously anticipated. I wouldn't say that the Pyro Archon is the Dragon Sovereign of Fire, but it does kinda feel like it, and she may be able to see everything through the eyes of the Saurians too, as if they were her familiars, which is interesting considering she also appeared as a Pyro Saurian when she was about to meet Capitano. So another possibility is that the Pyro Archons, both the previous one that I will still call Murata and the current one, are special higher versions of Pyro Saurians, something closer to the original Fire Dragon than the others. Anyway, what's important about the Archon Quest is that Defying Fate seems to be the main theme in Natlan once again. It seems that Mavuika wants to forge a new fate with blood instead of accepting the fate imposed upon them, the one they can see with their eyes. Since Natlan's Archon Quest is called Incandescent Ode of Resurrection, someone's going to die, otherwise the resurrection won't be happening, but I wonder if the entire nation is going to die and come back to life in order to break free from the heavenly principles. To conclude this video, the 4.8 summer event is all about finding a dragon responsible for something that's happening in the dream realm, and the origami animals are losing colors as a consequence. So far, the summer events have always hinted at the next nation. The Summertime Odyssey introduced how strong and relevant to the story of Sumeru the power of dreams is, and the Secret Summer Paradise hinted at the people not being really human. They were Hydro-Eidolons in the Velurin Mirage and Oceanids in Fontaine. The Summertide Scales and Tails is not going to be different. Of course, we know far too little about the summer event to understand what it's hinting at, but if Natlan is actually the cradle of life, the first nation of Tvat, the origin of the world, then the idea that colors are fading, but also the title of the summer map, Simulanka, which sounds a lot like simulacra, so a representation or imitation that substitutes reality, may mean that we're finally officially learning that Tvat is not a real world, that the people have forgotten, probably after the heavenly principles took over, that they are living in what seems to be a dreamscape, and this simulation or temporary arc/nursery for humanity is slowly losing power, that is, the colors fading. Again, as Mavuika said, what we see is the fate that's been imposed on Tvat, but if we close our eyes and feel, so as Nicole would say, where the god's gaze does not fall, then maybe we will be able to see what's real and what's not, because this simulation won't be able to trick us anymore. In Tvat, seeing is not believing. And that's it, I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to leave a thumbs up, and if you're interested in Genshin Impact Theory videos, consider subscribing. I will see you again very soon with a very interesting and scientifically complicated video about Star Rail, and then with a 4.8 analysis video after the event has ended. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, over and out.